If you've never worked search and rescue, there's one thing you should know. People don't always disappear because they're lost. Sometimes, they disappear because something else found them first. I spent 6 years on a volunteer SAR team in Washington State. Most calls were exactly what you'd expect: injured hikers, missing hunters, dementia patients who wandered too far. Then came the call none of us talks about anymore. A father reported his 19-year-old daughter missing after she failed to return from a solo day hike. Her GPS signal stopped somewhere inside a section of national forest locals simply called Hollow Ridge. By sunset, 12 of us were deployed. Everything looked normal, almost too normal. No storm, no damaged trails, no signs of a struggle, just miles of quiet forest. The kind of silence where even the birds seemed to be waiting. About 2 hours into the search, one of our trackers found a single boot beside the trail, still standing upright, like someone had carefully placed it there. No footprints leaving the area, no blood, nothing. Our team leader marked the location and told us to continue uphill. That's when our radios started acting strangely. Not static, not interference. Breathing. Slow. Patient. Every few minutes, someone breathing directly into the microphone. Nobody admitted to keying their radio. We assumed faulty equipment until the breathing answered us. Unit 3, report your position. A few seconds later, our own team leader's voice came back, except he hadn't spoken. Report your position. Same words, same tone, but delayed, like something had heard him and repeated it. Everyone froze. Our leader checked his radio. It wasn't me. Nobody laughed. About 15 minutes later, we found fresh footprints, bare feet, adult-sized, walking perfectly alongside the trail, not crossing it, not wandering, just following us. Every print exactly the same distance apart, as if whoever made them never changed pace, never slipped, never hesitated. We followed them for nearly half a mile. Then they simply stopped. No turn, no jump, no rocks nearby. The prints ended in soft mud, like whoever made them had simply vanished. By then, darkness had completely settled over the forest. Command ordered us to split into 2 search teams. Worst decision of the night. My group headed toward an old fire road. The other team moved east through thicker timber. 10 minutes later, they radioed in. We found her. Relief spread through everyone until we asked for coordinates. Silence. Then, we found her. Again, exactly the same words, exactly the same voice. But now it sounded farther away, almost like someone was walking while speaking. "Give us your location." No answer. Instead, we found her. Closer this time, except it wasn't coming through the radio anymore. It came from somewhere inside the trees, to our left. Every flashlight turned at once. Nothing. Then another voice, behind us. "Unit 4. One of my teammates went pale, because that wasn't just any voice. It was his own, calling his own radio designation. Perfectly. He whispered, "I didn't say that." The forest answered, "I didn't say that." Someone fired a flare into the trees. The light illuminated dozens of trunks, and for less than a second, someone standing between them. Too tall, completely still. Its arms hung far below its knees. Its face looked almost human. Except it wasn't looking at us. It was looking slightly past us, like it was watching something standing directly behind every member of our team. The flare burned out. Darkness swallowed everything again. Command immediately ordered all units back to the trailhead. Nobody argued. As we started hiking back, the voices followed, never running, never screaming, just calmly repeating everything we said. Always a few seconds later, always from a different direction. Sometimes ahead of us, sometimes beside us. Never where our lights actually landed. About 20 minutes from the trucks, we heard someone crying. A young woman, weak, barely audible. "Dad." The missing hiker. Her father had been calling her name all afternoon. Everyone recognized the voice instantly. Against protocol, 2 rescuers broke formation and ran toward it. We chased after them, but the crying stopped. The woods became silent again. After several minutes, we found the 2 rescuers, standing perfectly still, facing deeper into the forest. Neither answered us, neither moved. It took physically pulling them away before they finally reacted. Later, both men described the same thing. They said they could see the missing girl standing between the trees. She kept asking for help. But every time they got closer, she was somehow farther away, always the same distance, always just beyond the next group of trees. Neither of them could explain how they'd walked nearly a mile without realizing it. We reached the trailhead just before midnight. Head count, 11, not 12. 1 rescuer was missing. Nobody remembered when we'd last seen him. We searched until sunrise. Nothing. No footprints, no gear, no radio, no body. 3 days later, the missing hiker walked out of the forest by herself, barefoot, completely dehydrated. She couldn't explain where she'd been. Only one thing stayed consistent in every interview. She kept insisting that rescuers had been calling her name all night. She said she followed our voices for hours. She even recognized several of us from photographs afterward. The problem? None of us had ever reached the area where she was eventually found. Not even close. The rescuer who disappeared was never located. His radio, however, still appears once or twice every year. Random SAR teams searching Hollow Ridge occasionally report hearing a calm male voice over emergency frequencies. The transmission is always the same. Unit 12, I found her. The strange part? Unit 12 was his designation, and according to GPS records, he never got anywhere near the missing girl. Everyone thinks search and rescue is about finding people. Sometimes, it's about figuring out where they went. This happened during my second year on a mountain rescue team in Colorado. Late October. The first snow had already dusted the higher elevations, but the lower trails were still open. A couple called 911 after their 12-year-old son disappeared while hiking less than half a mile ahead of them. They searched for nearly an hour before making the call. The strange part? The trail was almost impossible to leave. Steep cliffs on one side, dense pine forest on the other. There was nowhere to go. By the time our team arrived, daylight was fading. The parents were hysterical. They kept repeating the same sentence. "He was right there!" No scream, no footprints running off the trail. He had simply stopped existing. Our search began immediately. Within 30 minutes, K9 units picked up a scent. The dogs pulled hard toward a narrow path leading downhill. Except there wasn't supposed to be a trail there. Every official map showed solid forest, no old roads, no abandoned routes, nothing. Still, the path was obvious. Packed dirt, broken branches, even old boot prints frozen into the mud. It looked traveled, frequently. Yet none of us had ever seen it before. The team leader marked our GPS, then frowned. According to the device, we were walking directly through untouched forest. The trail didn't exist. We assumed outdated mapping. It happens, so we continued. The deeper we went, the quieter everything became. No birds, no insects. Even the dogs stopped barking. One handler finally unclipped his lead because the animal refused to move. The dog turned around and sprinted back toward the main trail. We never saw it again. About 20 minutes later, we found something impossible. Fresh search markers. Bright orange ribbon tied around tree branches, exactly like the ones we use. Each one carried today's date and the initials of our own rescue team. There was just one problem. None of us had tied them. We checked supplies. Every ribbon roll was still full. Someone joked another team must have come through earlier. Command confirmed over radio, we were the only rescue unit in the entire forest. The first feeling that something was seriously wrong came when one of our volunteers noticed boot prints. Not ahead of us, behind us. Fresh, following our line. One complete set. As if someone had quietly joined the group. Nobody remembered hearing footsteps. We counted heads. Everyone was present. Still, the extra footprints continued, matching our pace exactly. Whenever we stopped, they stopped. Whenever we moved, they appeared again. One step after another, always one person too many.
Then came the whistle. 3 short blasts. The universal distress signal. It echoed from somewhere below. Every rescuer recognized it instantly. Someone needed help. We rushed downhill. The whistle sounded again, closer, then farther away. Then somehow, above us. Our radios suddenly exploded with overlapping voices. Different teams calling coordinates, requesting medical support, reporting visual contact. The problem? Those call signs belonged to rescuers who had retired years ago. One voice even belonged to a captain who'd died in an avalanche almost a decade earlier. Nobody spoke. We all heard it. The transmissions continued for nearly 2 minutes before cutting off at once. Complete silence. Then our GPS units began spinning. North changed every few seconds. Maps rotated endlessly. One rescuer quietly unfolded an old paper map. There, drawn in faded pencil, was the exact trail we were standing on. It wasn't printed. Someone had added it by hand. Across the top, a note. Do not follow after dark. Nobody admitted writing it. The ink looked decades old. Then someone shouted. About 50 yards ahead stood a little boy. Red jacket, blue backpack, exactly matching the missing child's description. He wasn't crying. He wasn't calling for help. He simply stood there, looking at us. Our team leader yelled his name. The boy smiled, then slowly stepped behind a tree. We ran. Seconds later, we reached it. Nothing. No footprints, no broken branches, just forest. One rescuer noticed something carved into the bark. Tiny tally marks. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands.
each grouped into sets of 5, as if someone had been counting days or people. That's when we realized the orange ribbons we'd been following weren't leading us forward anymore. They circled behind us. We'd been walking in a perfect loop for over an hour without noticing. Panic spread fast.
Everyone checked compasses. None agreed. Every direction looked identical. Trees, snow, fog. The team leader ordered everyone to stay within arm's reach. Too late. One rescuer answered a voice calling his nickname. Nobody else had spoken. He turned, walked into the trees, and disappeared. We chased him immediately. Nothing. No crashing through brush, no footprints, no radio response. Just gone. We abandoned the search and focused on getting out. It took nearly 4 hours to find the main trail again. According to GPS, we'd only traveled 600 feet. The missing rescuer was found the following afternoon, sitting alone beside a creek less than half a mile from where he'd vanished. He was alive, completely coherent, but he insisted he'd been hiking for 3 straight days. He described abandoned campsites, old rescue signs, and dozens of orange ribbons leading deeper into the mountains. He said he kept seeing our team ahead of him. Every time he caught up, we were farther away. The missing boy? He was located 2 days later, curled beneath a fallen tree less than 300 yards from where he'd disappeared. Doctors couldn't explain how he'd survived freezing temperatures. When investigators asked what happened, he gave only one answer. "I followed the people in orange." His parents showed him photographs of our rescue team. He shook his head. "No, not those people. The other ones." To this day, new volunteers are warned about unofficial trails, not because they're dangerous, because sometimes they're waiting to be found. Every search and rescue volunteer eventually hears the same advice. If you find something that makes no sense, don't try to explain it. Just leave. I wish someone had told me that before my first winter deployment. A solo backpacker disappeared during a 3-day trip through the Black Hills. His truck was still parked at the trailhead. His tent was never pitched. His phone stopped transmitting just after sunset. Nothing unusual, until we started searching. Snow had fallen the night before, which should have made tracking easy. Instead, there was only one set of footprints. His. They continued almost 4 miles into the forest, never changing pace, never stopping. Then, they ended. Not at a cliff, not at a frozen river, not beneath a fallen tree, just ended. The last print was perfectly preserved. The next step simply didn't exist. It looked as though he'd taken one more stride and never come back down. Our tracker stared at the snow for nearly a minute, then quietly said, "I've seen this before." Nobody asked where. He refused to elaborate. We spread into a search grid around the area. Within minutes, one volunteer called us over. There was another set of tracks, older, partially buried beneath fresh snow. Then another, and another. Soon, we counted dozens, all heading toward the exact same location. Different boot sizes, different tread patterns, different years. Some prints were so old they had frozen into layers of ice. Others looked fresh. Every single trail ended in the same invisible point, as if generations of missing hikers had all walked to one spot and vanished. Command assumed drifting snow had covered the exits,
But drifting doesn't erase footprints that cleanly. Not like this. As we documented the area, our radios crackled.
A dispatcher asked us to identify an emergency beacon. The coordinates she read belonged to our position. None of us had activated a beacon. She insisted one had just gone off. The signal carried the ID of an emergency locator registered 12 years earlier, to a climber who disappeared in these mountains. The beacon transmitted for 30 seconds, then went silent. We searched the area again. Nothing. No device, no pack, no remains, just endless snow. By late afternoon, heavy clouds rolled in. Visibility dropped fast. The team leader ordered everyone back toward the trailhead. Halfway there, we found another trail. Fresh footprints, bare feet, walking through knee-deep snow. No signs of frostbite, no blood. The stride was perfectly relaxed, almost casual. They crossed our path, then disappeared into dense trees. One rescuer started following them. The rest of us reluctantly followed. The tracks led to a clearing.
In the center stood an old ranger cabin. None of us had ever seen it before, which made no sense. The building wasn't abandoned. Smoke drifted from the chimney. A lantern glowed inside. Someone was home. We knocked. No answer. The door wasn't locked. Inside, the cabin was warm. A fire crackled in the stove. Fresh coffee sat on the table. Boots rested beside the door. But nobody was there. One wall caught everyone's attention. It was covered with photographs, hundreds of them. Missing person posters, every face carefully cut out and pinned separately. Some dated back 40 years. Some were only months old. Then one of our volunteers quietly pointed to the newest photo. It was taken earlier that morning. Our team, standing at the trailhead before entering the forest. None of us remembered anyone taking it. The timestamp matched exactly. Underneath, someone had written today's date, and beside every face, a blank space. Except one. The missing backpacker's picture already had a thick black X drawn across it. Nobody spoke. We left immediately. Outside, the cabin was gone. Not hidden, gone. Only untouched snow remained. No foundation, no chimney, no footprints leading away. Even the smoke had disappeared. One volunteer insisted we had walked into the wrong clearing. Another swore the cabin had never existed. Then we counted heads. 8. We entered with 9. Our medic was missing. No one remembered seeing him leave. His radio answered immediately, at first. Then all we heard was footsteps, crunching snow, slow, steady, as if he were walking in circles. We followed the signal for nearly 20 minutes. Eventually it stopped beneath a massive pine tree. The radio lay in the snow, still transmitting, still warm. No footprints approached it, no footprints left it, just the radio. That night, the storm forced us to suspend the search. The medic wasn't found until spring. His body was discovered sitting against a tree nearly 6 miles away. The strange part wasn't how he died. Exposure explained that. The strange part was the notebook in his pocket. Every page contained names, hundreds of them. Missing hikers, campers, hunters, people who had vanished in those mountains over the last 50 years. At the very end, he'd added 9 more names. Ours. Every member of the search team, including himself. The only difference, his own name had already been crossed out. Mine hadn't. A week later, investigators returned to recover the cabin we'd described. There wasn't even a clearing. Satellite images showed uninterrupted forest stretching back decades. No building had ever existed there, officially. I transferred to another SAR unit after that winter, but every January, I receive an anonymous envelope. Inside is a single photograph. It's always taken somewhere deep in the woods.
It always shows a rescue team, and every year, they're standing a little closer to the camera. Last winter, I recognized one of the faces. It was a volunteer who disappeared during a search operation 3 months earlier. He wasn't asking for help. He was smiling, like he'd finally found what he'd been looking for. Every search and rescue operation eventually reaches the same point. The moment when command says, "We're no longer searching for a survivor." It's a sentence nobody wants to hear. This call reached that point after only 2 days. A wildlife photographer had vanished inside a remote section of the Appalachian Mountains. His truck sat untouched at the trailhead. Camera equipment was missing. His drone was never recovered. For 48 hours, we searched every ridge, creek, and ravine. Nothing. No clothing, no footprints, no broken branches. It was as if the mountain had erased him. By the third evening, command suspended the operation. Too dangerous to continue after dark. Everyone packed up. Vehicles started leaving. Then, dispatch received a radio transmission. Clear, strong. "This is Search Team Bravo. We've located the subject." Everyone froze. There was one problem. Search Team Bravo had already returned to base over an hour earlier. Dispatch confirmed every member was accounted for. Yet the transmission came through using Bravo's official radio frequency. Someone replied, "Identify yourself." Several seconds passed. Then, "We've located the subject." Exactly the same words, exactly the same voice. No emotion, no background noise, just the message. Command assumed someone had left a radio behind, so 4 of us volunteered to retrieve it before the overnight storm arrived. According to the signal, the radio sat roughly 2 miles beyond our last search area, a place none of us had entered. The trail ended after 30 minutes. From there, we bushwhacked through thick forest. Eventually, our signal tracker locked onto the transmission, less than 300 feet ahead. Then another message came through. "Subject is alive." One of the rescuers smiled. Maybe we'd made a terrible mistake. Maybe the photographer really had survived. We started moving faster. The signal grew stronger, almost too strong. Our radios suddenly displayed full reception, despite being miles from any repeater tower. Every few seconds, another update arrived. "Subject is walking. Subject is waiting. Subject sees you." That stopped us. Nobody spoke. Then, "Subject is smiling." Our team leader quietly ordered everyone to switch off external speakers. Only earpieces from that point on. No one argued. We reached the coordinates just before sunset. The signal came from a narrow valley surrounded by enormous rock walls. At the center stood an emergency locator beacon, still flashing, still transmitting. Its serial number belonged to the missing photographer. The strange part, the battery should have died 36 hours earlier. Instead, it showed 100% charge. While our medic examined it, I noticed something carved into one of the rocks.
coordinates. Hundreds of them, each followed by a date. Some were from the 1980s, others from only months ago. Every coordinate belonged to a real search and rescue mission. One rescuer checked 3 random entries on his GPS. Every single one matched a historical missing person case. Someone had been documenting disappearances for decades. Then my radio whispered behind me, "Turn around." Not through the earpiece, behind me. I spun instantly, nobody. The others were staring at me. Apparently, they hadn't heard it. A minute later, each of them reacted the same way, one after another. Everyone heard their own name, always from behind, always in the voice of someone they trusted. A wife, a brother, a longtime partner. Never the same voice twice. Our leader ordered an immediate retreat. As we climbed out of the valley,
New transmissions flooded every radio. Different voices, different rescuers, real call signs. Some still active, some retired, some dead. All calmly reporting progress. Visual contact. Patient stable. Almost there. Then one message cut through every frequency. We found another one. Nobody on our team had spoken. The voice continued. Bring the rest. Every radio died simultaneously. Complete silence. Darkness arrived faster than expected. Rain started. Within minutes, visibility collapsed. That's when we saw the lights. Flashlights. Dozens of them, moving between the trees. Exactly like a SAR team sweeping the forest. Perfect spacing. Perfect formation. Orange reflective jackets, helmets. Everything looked legitimate. Except they never used their radios. Never called out. Never acknowledged us. They simply searched. One line after another, slowly moving toward our position. Relief lasted only a second. Then our newest volunteer counted them. There are too many. A normal sweep line should have contained maybe 12 people. There were at least 30, maybe 40. And none of them cast shadows when our lights crossed them. Our leader shouted, "Which team are you with?" Every flashlight stopped moving at exactly the same moment. Then, every single light turned toward us, not 1 second apart, perfectly synchronized. No answer, just 30 beams pointing directly into our eyes. Then all the lights switched off together, pitch black. Someone yelled to run. Nobody waited. Branches tore at our jackets as we sprinted uphill. Behind us, boots, dozens of them, walking, never running, always keeping the same distance, as though they already knew we couldn't escape. We reached the trailhead shortly after midnight. Head count. Everyone was there. Barely. While packing equipment, dispatch called over the radio. She sounded confused. She asked why our team had continued transmitting after we'd returned. According to her recordings, our radios kept sending location updates for another 4 hours, reporting new discoveries, new coordinates, new missing persons. The final transmission came just before dawn. It used our team leader's voice. "We're expanding the search." Then, "We've got room for more." The photographer's body was eventually discovered 6 months later after the snow melted. His camera survived. Most of the photos were ordinary landscapes, until investigators reached the final image. It had been taken at night, from somewhere deep in the trees, looking down at our entire rescue team. The timestamp proved something impossible. The picture was captured
2 hours before we even arrived on the mountain. No one has ever explained who took it, or why every one of us was looking directly into the camera.